The last thing the world saw on the live stream was a 13-year-old Filipino boy named June staring at his broken webcam, smiling softly, while the most powerful hacker in America sat in silence on the other side of the world, his fingers frozen over his keyboard. Realizing he had just lost a war, he didn't even know he was fighting. It was 3 a.m. in Manila when June's phone buzzed for the first time. He was sitting on a worn wooden floor in his family's small apartment in Tondo, one of the poorest districts in the Philippines. The walls around him were thin and stained with age. A single fluorescent bulb flickered above, casting a pale, nervous light across a room that held only a second-hand table, a broken electric fan, and a pile of school notebooks stacked neatly in a corner. June was not supposed to be awake. His mother, a factory worker who left home before sunrise, had told him to sleep early. But June could not sleep. His fingers were too hungry. The phone was not his. It was his older sister's old unit, handed down after she saved for a better one. The screen had a long crack running diagonally from the top right corner to the bottom left. The back cover was held together by masking tape, but for June, it was a treasure chest. He had learned to code by watching YouTube videos in internet cafes, paying 5 pesos for 30 minutes of screen time. He had memorized Python from a borrowed book that smelled of mildew, and now, at 13, he understood something that most adults did not. A computer was just a conversation. If you learned the language, the machine would talk back. The message arrived through an encrypted chat app that June had installed out of curiosity. It was from a username he did not recognize, gh0st_dog_99. The message was short and cold. You think you're good because you broke into a school grading system? That's not hacking. That's playing. June's heart stopped for a second. He had never told anyone about the school grading system. It had been 2 months ago, a quiet test of his skills. He had found a vulnerability in the local high school's database, just a small hole in their security, and he had slipped in, looked around, and slipped out without changing a single number. He did it to prove to himself that he could. He told no one, not his mother, not his friends, not even Kuya Ben, the internet cafe owner who had taught him basic commands. June typed back slowly. Who are you? The reply came in less than 3 seconds. I'm the person who just deleted your school records. All of them. Not changed. Deleted. Let's see how long before they notice. June stared at the message. His fingers trembled, but not from fear, from excitement. He had heard stories about hackers from other countries, mostly from the United States, who treated the internet like their personal playground. They broke into systems for sport. They left digital graffiti behind like signatures on a wall. And now one of them had found him. He opened his browser and tried to access his school's portal. The page loaded halfway, then stopped. Error 404. The entire student database was gone. June leaned back against the wall and breathed slowly. This was not a random attack. Someone had been watching him. gh0st_dog_99 sent another message. You have 1 week. I will find a weakness in every government website in the Philippines. I will expose the worst ones. And you will watch me do it, unless you can stop me. June's mother had always told him that pride was a dangerous thing. She said that the quiet river cuts the deepest canyon, not the loud waterfall. But June was 13 and his hands were shaking, and for the first time in his life, someone was treating him like an equal. He typed back, "What are the rules?" The reply came instantly. No rules. That's the rule. You defend. I attack. 7 days. If you stop me even once, I'll leave your country alone. If you don't, I'll broadcast every hole I find in the whole world. They'll think your government is a joke. They'll think your people don't know how to protect themselves. Your move, kid. June did not sleep that night. He sat on the floor until the first light of dawn crept through the thin curtains, and he made a list. He wrote down every government website he could remember. The Department of Education, the local city hall portal, the social welfare system, the healthcare database. He did not know how deep gh0st_dog_99 was willing to go, but he knew one thing for certain. The American hacker had made a mistake. He had given June a week. What gh0st_dog_99 did not know was that June had already been inside most of those systems. not to break them, to understand them. For 2 years, since he was 11, June had spent his internet cafe hours studying the digital infrastructure of his own country. He found the same weak points again and again: outdated software, default passwords that were never changed, servers that had not been updated in years. He had never told anyone because he did not want to be a criminal. He only wanted to learn. But now, learning was not enough. Now he had to move. Monday morning, June went to school like nothing was wrong. He sat in the back of the classroom, his cracked phone hidden inside his pencil case, and he listened to his teacher complain about a system error that had erased all student records. The principal looked tired. The IT coordinator, a young man named Sir Ray, who barely knew how to reset a router, walked from room to room with a panicked expression. June watched it all quietly. During recess, June slipped into the school's computer lab. The lab was small, with 10 old desktop computers that ran Windows 7 and had not been updated in 4 years. Sir Ray had left the administrator password written on a sticky note under the keyboard of the main computer. June logged in, opened a command terminal, and began to work. He first checked the logs of the school server. GH0ST_dog_99 had left a signature, a small piece of code that acted like a digital business card. It was elegant and fast, the work of someone who had done this hundreds of times before. The American had used a SQL injection attack, one of the oldest tricks in the book, but he had executed it perfectly. June studied the code for 30 minutes. Then he closed his eyes and thought. The attack was too clean, too professional. GH0ST_dog_99 was not just showing off. He was teaching. Every line of code was a lesson. The American wanted June to learn how he thought. But why? Why would a world-class hacker waste his time on a poor kid from Tondo? June did not have time to wonder. He had 6 days left. That afternoon, he went to the internet cafe on the corner of Rodriguez Street. The cafe was a narrow space with 15 computers arranged in 3 rows. The air always thick with the smell of instant noodles and sweat. Kuya Ben, the owner, was a heavy-set man in his 40s with kind eyes and a missing front tooth. He had taught June how to type when the boy was 9, watching him hunt and peck at the keys with 2 fingers. "You look different today," Kuya Ben said, handing June a bottle of water, "like a soldier going to war." June smiled but did not look away from the screen. "Kuya, if someone wanted to break into every government website in the country, where would they start?" Kuya Ben was quiet for a long moment. He had been a computer science student once, before his family ran out of money, and he had to drop out to run the cafe. He knew enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be great. He pulled up a chair and sat next to June. They would start with the smallest one. Kuya Ben said, "The one nobody pays attention to. The one with the oldest software and the laziest admin." They would break in, set up a backdoor, and then use that server to jump to the next one, like crossing a river by stepping on stones. June nodded. That was exactly what he had been thinking. He opened a browser and started searching. Within an hour, he had found the weakest stone, the official website of a small municipal government in the province of Quezon. The site had been built in 2009 and had not been updated since 2012. The admin login page was still active, and the default username and password had never been changed. June's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He could break in right now. He could find the American before the American found him. But something stopped him. He remembered what his mother always said about the quiet river cutting the deepest canyon. He closed the browser and leaned back. "Why didn't you do it?" Kuya Ben asked. "Because I don't know his plan yet," June said. "If I move too fast, I'll miss something. I need to watch him first. I need to understand how he thinks." That night, June set up a trap. He created a fake server that looked exactly like the municipal government website. It had the same login page, the same outdated design, even the same fake administrator account. Then he sat back and waited. If GH0ST_dog_99 was scanning for weak targets, his automated tools would find a fake server and try to break in. And when they did, June would see exactly how the American worked. He did not have to wait long. At 2:17 a.m., the trap was triggered. June watched on his cracked phone screen as a series of commands hit his fake server. The American's tool was fast, relentless, and brilliant. It tried 17 different attack vectors in under 60 seconds. It did not just look for weak passwords. It studied the server's response time, its error messages, even the way it handled broken requests. By the time the tool finished, it had mapped the entire structure of the fake server and found a vulnerability that June had not even known was there. June's hands were cold. The American was not just good, he was a genius. His tools were custom-built, designed specifically to hunt for weaknesses that most hackers would never find. And worst of all, GH0ST_dog_99 was not attacking randomly. He was studying. He was learning the digital landscape of the Philippines the same way June was learning it. But June had seen something in the attack that the American probably did not realize he had shown. The tool had a small flaw. In its rush to be fast, it sometimes repeated the same command twice. That meant the American was not using a supercomputer. He was using a normal machine, probably a laptop, running a script that he had written himself. And if he was using a normal laptop, he had a normal internet connection. And if he had a normal internet connection, he had an IP address. June smiled in the darkness. The hunter had just become the hunted. Tuesday morning, June did something dangerous. He skipped school. He told his mother he was sick, a lie that made his stomach hurt. But he told himself it was for a good reason. He spent the entire day at the internet cafe, tracing the American's digital footprint. GH0ST_dog_99 was careful. He used multiple proxy servers, bouncing his connection through different countries every few minutes. First the Netherlands, then Singapore, then Brazil, then back to the Netherlands. It was like chasing a shadow. But June had learned something else from the trap. The American's tool always checked the time zone of the server before attacking. That meant GH0ST_dog_99 did not want to attack during business hours. He wanted to hit when nobody was watching. And the time zone he used to calculate his attacks was Eastern Standard Time. The American was on the East Coast of the United States. June pulled up a world clock on his screen. Eastern Standard Time was 12 hours behind Manila. When it was 2 a.m. in the Philippines, it was 2 p.m. in New York. The American was attacking during his own afternoon, not in the middle of his night. That meant one of two things. Either GH0ST_dog_99 did not have a day job, or he was a student. June filed that information away and kept working. By Wednesday, the news had spread. Someone had posted on social media that a foreign hacker was targeting Philippine government websites. The posts were vague and panicked, full of misspellings and exclamation points. But they were also right. GH0ST_dog_99 had struck again, this time breaking into the database of Provincial Health Office and posting a warning message on the homepage. The message was short. Your walls are made of paper. GH0ST_dog. The government's response was slow and confused. A spokesman held a press conference and said there was no confirmed breach of critical systems. The spokesman's name was Director Ramos, a man with a gray mustache and a nervous habit of touching his collar every few seconds. June watched the press conference on a small television in the corner of the internet cafe. He saw the fear in Director Ramos's eyes. Microphones are crowded in front of him. His face is sweaty and his tie is slightly crooked. In the background, a blurry television screen shows the same press conference from a different angle. The lighting is harsh and fluorescent, giving the scene the feel of a news broadcast from the early 2000s. They're lying, Kuya Ben said quietly. Standing behind June, the breach happened. They just don't want people to panic. I know, June said, but lying makes it worse. Now the American knows they're scared, and scared people make mistakes. June had a choice. He could try to warn the government, tell them about the vulnerabilities he had found, become some kind of child hero. But that would mean revealing himself. And if he revealed himself, GH0ST_dog_99 would know exactly who he was fighting. The American would stop playing games and start attacking for real. Or June could stay quiet and fight the war alone. He chose to fight alone. Thursday night, GH0ST_dog_99 sent another message. This one was different. It was not a taunt or a challenge. It was a video file. June hesitated for a long moment. before opening it. The video was dark and shaky, filmed on a phone camera in what looked like a messy bedroom in the United States. The person holding the camera did not show his face, but he spoke. "You're better than I expected, kid. The trap you set? That was clever. Nobody has done that to me before. But you need to understand something. I'm not doing this because I hate your country. I'm doing this because I want to see if anyone in your country cares enough to stop me. Most countries don't. Most governments let their digital walls rot until someone breaks in and steals everything. I want to know if the Philippines is different." The video ended. June watched it 3 times. Then he typed a response. "You're wrong about one thing. This isn't about the government. It's about the people. You break their websites. You embarrass their leaders. Fine. But the people don't care about websites. They care about hospitals at work and schools that teaching food on their tables. If you really want to see if anyone cares, stop attacking websites. Attack something that matters. Then you'll see what we're made of." There was no reply for an hour. Then 2 hours. June sat on his floor, the phone pressed against his chest, waiting. He started to think he had made a mistake. Maybe he had angered the American. Maybe GH0ST_dog_99 would now destroy everything out of spite. At 4:23 a.m., the reply came. "Fine. Tomorrow, I attack the power grid." June closed his eyes. The power grid. The American was not just playing games anymore. He was going after something that could hurt real people. Hospitals would lose electricity. Water pumps would stop working. Traffic lights would go dark. People could die. But June also saw something else. The American had just made a fatal mistake. He had told June exactly where he was going to attack. And now June had less than 24 hours to figure out how to stop him. He ran downstairs, grabbed his school bag, and ran to the internet cafe. Kuya Ben was just opening the shop, yawning as he lifted the metal grate. He took one look at June's face and stopped yawning. "What happened?" "He's going after the power grid," June said, already logging into a computer. "I need to find every vulnerability in the system before he does. And I need to do it before noon." Kuya Ben locked the door of the cafe. He turned off the main sign so no customers would come in. Then he sat down at the computer next to June. "Teach me what to do," Kuya Ben said. "I'm not as fast as you, but I can help." For the next 14 hours, the two of them worked without stopping. June found the first vulnerability within an hour, a remote access point for maintenance workers that had not been secured properly. The username and password were both set to admin. Kuya Ben found the second one, an old backup server that was still connected to the main grid but had not been updated in 3 years. June found the third one, and the fourth and the fifth. By midnight, they had found 17 separate vulnerabilities in the power grid's digital infrastructure. 17 doors that GH0ST_dog_99 could walk through. June knew he could not close them all. There was not enough time, but maybe he did not need to close them. Maybe he just needed to make the American think they were closed. June explained his plan. They would not try to fix the vulnerabilities. That was impossible. Instead, they would create a false layer over the entire system. Every time the Americans' tool scanned for weaknesses, it would see a fake version of the grid where every door was locked and every password was strong. The real grid would still be vulnerable, but GH0ST_dog_99 would not be able to find the vulnerabilities. He would be looking at a mirror, not the real thing. "That's deception," Kuya Ben said slowly. "That's not defense. That's a trick. It's the only thing we have time for," June said. "If we try to fix everything, we'll fail. But if we make him waste his time looking in the wrong places, we win." They started building the false layer at 12:30 a.m. June wrote the code. Kuya Ben tested it. They worked in silence, only stopping when their fingers cramped or their eyes blurred. The sun rose over Manila, and they did not notice. The church bells rang for morning mass, and they did not hear them. At 8 a.m., the false layer was ready. June triggered it, watching as the fake grid went live across all 17 vulnerabilities. Now, when GH0ST_dog_99 scanned the power grid, he would see a perfect Secure system with no holes at all. They waited. 9 a.m. Nothing. 10 a.m. Nothing. 11 a.m. June's phone buzzed. A message from GH0ST underscore dog underscore 99. What did you do? June typed back. I showed you a mirror. There was a long pause. Then, you can't hide the real grid forever. The mirror will break eventually. And when it does, I'll be there. June smiled. By then, I'll have closed every real door. You taught me that. The quiet river cuts the deepest canyon. You just didn't know you were teaching me about myself. The American did not attack the power grid that day, or the next day, or the day after that. On the seventh day, GH0ST underscore dog underscore 99 sent one final message. You won this round, kid. But remember, the internet doesn't forget, and neither do I. Keep learning. Keep building. One day I might come back, and I won't go easy on you. Then the account went silent. The profile picture turned gray. The messages stopped. GH0ST underscore dog underscore 99 disappeared like smoke. June sat on the floor of his apartment, holding his sister's old phone, and he felt something he had never felt before. Not pride, not relief, something quieter, something like the stillness after a storm. He looked around the small room with its stained walls and broken fan, and he thought about the American sitting in a messy bedroom thousands of miles away, probably smiling the same way June was smiling. They were not enemies. They were two people who spoke the same language in a world that did not understand them. June's mother came home that evening, tired from the factory, her hands rough from sewing zippers onto bags. She saw her son sitting on the floor, his phone dark, his eyes far away. Did something happen? She asked. June looked up at her. He wanted to tell her everything. About the American, about the power grid, about the 17 vulnerabilities, and the false mirror, and the war he had fought while she was asleep. But the words would not come. How do you tell your mother that you saved the power grid of your country from a foreign hacker when you were supposed to be doing your math homework? So June just smiled and said, Nothing, Ma. I'm just tired. She kissed his forehead and went to cook dinner. June listened to the sound of rice cooking in the small kitchen, the sizzle of fish in the pan, the familiar noises of home, and he made a promise to himself. He would keep learning. He would keep building. And one day, when the American came back, June would be ready, but he would not fight alone. That was a lesson GH0ST underscore dog underscore 99 had really taught him. Not how to code, not how to hack, but how to care. And that was the most dangerous weapon of all. 3 months passed. The rain season came to Tondo, turning the narrow streets into rivers of brown water and forcing the children to wade through knee-deep floods just to reach school. June's apartment developed a new leak in the corner near the window, and his mother placed a plastic basin on the floor to catch the dripping water. The sound of drops hitting plastic became the background music of his nights. June had not forgotten GH0ST underscore dog underscore 89. He thought about the American almost every day. But life had returned to its normal rhythm. School, homework, internet cafe sleep, repeat. The school had restored its student records from a backup tape that Sir Ray found in a dusty cabinet. No one ever asked how the records were deleted in the first place. No one ever suspected the quiet boy in the back row, who always smelled faintly of rain and old paper. But June had changed. He no longer hacked for curiosity. He hacked for purpose. Every night, after his mother fell asleep, he would log on to his sister's old phone and search for vulnerabilities in the systems that ordinary Filipinos depended on. The water billing system of Manila, the public hospital appointment database, the traffic management system of Quezon City. He found holes in all of them, and one by one, he sent anonymous emails to the administrators explaining the problems and how to fix them. Most never replied. Some fixed the holes. A few wrote back asking who he was. He never told them. Then, on a Tuesday night in October, everything changed again. June was in the internet cafe, helping Kuya Ben install new RAM sticks on 3 of the oldest computers. The work was slow and careful, June's small fingers fitting the delicate components into place, while Kuya Ben held a flashlight. The cafe was empty except for an old man sleeping in the corner chair, his mouth open, his flip-flops on the floor beside him. June's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Kuya looked at him. Someone really wants to talk to you. June wiped his hands on his shorts and picked up the phone. The screen showed 27 new messages, all from an unknown number, all in capital letters. June, where are you? Please answer. Someone is inside the national database. They are deleting voter records. June, please. The last message was different. It was not from the unknown number. It was from GH0ST_dog_99. I told you I would come back. But this isn't me, kid. Someone else found the holes. Someone worse. Check the COMELEC database. Now. June's blood turned cold. COMELEC was a commission on elections, the national database of every registered voter in the Philippines. If someone deleted or altered those records, the next election could be thrown into chaos. Millions of people could be prevented from voting. Democracy itself could be damaged. June dropped the RAM stick he was holding and grabbed the nearest computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security layers that should have taken minutes in just seconds. He was inside the COMELEC network within 90 seconds, and what he saw made him want to vomit. Someone had already been inside for hours. They had deleted voter records from 3 provinces entirely. Not altered, not encrypted, deleted, gone forever unless there were offline backups. And June knew from his previous scans that the offline backups had not been updated in 8 months. Whoever was doing this knew exactly what they were doing, but there was something else. Something strange. The attack was not coming from outside the network. It was coming from inside. Someone had physical access to a computer connected to the COMELEC database. That meant the attacker was not a foreign hacker sitting in another country. The attacker was Filipino, and they were probably sitting in a government building in Manila at that very moment. June's phone buzzed again. GH0ST_dog_99. I see you found it. The attacker is using a modified version of my own code. They stole it from me 6 months ago when I wasn't paying attention. This is my fault, kid. I need your help to fix it. June stared at the message. The American hacker who had challenged him, who had threatened to expose his country's weaknesses to the world, was now asking for help. June wanted to feel angry. He wanted to feel triumphant. But all he felt was the weight of the moment pressing down on his chest. He typed back, "Why should I trust you?" The reply came faster than any message before. "Because I'm sending you the location of the attacker right now. And because I'm not asking you to trust me, I'm asking you to trust yourself." A second message arrived. It contained an IP address and a set of coordinates. The coordinates pointed to a building in Pasay City, just south of Manila. The building was a government office that housed the technical support team for the national election system. The attacker was not some mysterious outsider. The attacker was one of the people paid to protect the system. June looked at Kuya. "I need to go to Pasay City." Kuya shook his head slowly. "You're 13 years old. You can't just walk into a government building and confront someone. Then what do I do?" Kuya was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his own phone and started dialing. "I have a cousin who works for a news station. If someone is destroying voter records, the whole country needs to know, not just us." While Kuya made the call, June turned back to the computer. He could not stop the attacker directly, but maybe he could slow them down. He started writing a script line by line, a digital barrier that would make it harder for the attacker to delete more records. It would not stop them completely. Nothing could stop someone with physical access to the machine, but it would buy time. The attacker noticed immediately. The deletion slowed from every 30 seconds to every 2 minutes, then every 5 minutes. Then they stopped altogether for a moment, and a message appeared on the database's internal chat system. It was meant for other government employees, but June could see it clearly. "Who is in the system right now? Identify yourself." June did not answer. He kept building the barrier. The attacker responded by trying to kick him out of the network. They were good, June realized. Not as good as GH0ST_dog_99, but better than most. They had training. They had experience. They had the advantage of being inside the building, while June was sitting in a cramped internet cafe in Tondo. But June had something they did not have. He had nothing to lose. The battle continued for 2 hours. The attacker deleted. June restored from temporary caches. The attacker locked June out of one server. June found another way in through a different server. It was like a chess game played at the speed of light. Each move countered by another move, neither side willing to give up. Then, at 11:47 p.m., everything changed. Kuya-ben's cousin came through. A news alert flashed across the television in the corner of the cafe. A reporter stood outside the government building in Pasay City, her microphone wet from rain, her voice urgent. "We are receiving reports of a possible security breach at the National Election Database. Sources inside the building confirm that unauthorized access has been detected. Police are on the scene. We will bring you more information as it becomes available." The attackers saw the news report too. June could feel them hesitate. Their deletion stopped completely. Then, a final message appeared on the internal chat. "This isn't over. You don't even know who you're fighting." Then the attacker disconnected. The network went quiet. June waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. The attacker did not return. June slowly, carefully, began to rebuild the deleted voter records from the fragments that remained. It was painstaking work, like putting together a shredded photograph. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Every record he restored was a person who could vote in the next election. At 3 a.m., June finished. He had restored 97% of the deleted records. The remaining 3% were gone forever, but those voters could register again before the next election. The damage was not permanent. Democracy was safe. For now. June leaned back in his chair. His fingers ached. His eyes burned. He had not eaten since lunch. But he was smiling. Kuya-ben brought him a cup of instant noodles and a bottle of soda, and June ate in silence, watching the rain slide down the window. His phone buzzed one last time. GH0SD_dog_99. "You did good tonight, kid. Better than good. You saved something that mattered. I was wrong about your country. The walls might be made of paper, but the people inside the walls are made of something stronger. I'm deleting my account after this message. Not because I'm scared. Because I don't need to test you anymore. You already passed. Keep going. June built something bigger than yourself. And one more thing. The attacker tonight, they weren't working alone. Someone paid them. Someone with money and power. Be careful who you trust." The account went dark. The profile picture disappeared. This time, June knew GH0SD_dog_99 was gone for good. But the American's final words echoed in his mind. Someone with money and power had paid to destroy voter records. That meant this was not just a hacker causing trouble. This was a conspiracy. And June had just stepped into the middle of it. He looked at Kuya-ben. Someone paid them to do this. Someone important. Kuya-ben's face went pale. Then they know someone stopped them. They know someone was in the system fighting back. "June, if they find out it was you..." June did not let him finish. "They won't find out. I cover my tracks. Every path leads to a dead end. But, Kuya, we can't just walk away from this. If someone is trying to steal an election, we have to stop them." Kuya-ben put his hand on June's shoulder. "You're 13 years old. You're supposed to be worrying about homework and crushes and basketball games, not conspiracies and elections and hackers." "I know," June said quietly. "But I can't unsee what I saw tonight, and I can't pretend it didn't happen." The next morning, June went home and slept for 12 hours. When he woke up, his mother was sitting on the edge of his bed, holding his phone. Her face was unreadable. "I found this under your pillow," she said softly. "There are messages on it, from someone named Ghost, and from numbers I don't recognize. June, what have you been doing?" June sat up slowly. He looked at his mother's hands. Rough in the factory, the same hands that had sewn zippers onto bags for 12 hours a day for 10 years, so he could have food and a roof and a chance at something better. He thought about lying. He thought about protecting her from the truth. But then he remembered what GH0SD_dog_99 had said about the people inside the walls being made of something stronger. "Ma," he said, "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to believe me, but I need you to listen to the end." His mother put the phone down on the bed. She folded her hands in her lap, and she nodded. "I'm listening." June took a deep breath, and he began to tell her everything. June's mother did not speak for a long time after he finished. She sat on the edge of his bed, her hands still folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the cracked wall across the room. The plastic basin in the corner continued its steady dripping. A jeepney horn blared somewhere outside. The normal sounds of Tondo continued, indifferent to the extraordinary confession that had just been spoken in that small room. When she finally looked at him, June expected anger. He expected fear. He expected the kind of desperate, protective rage that mothers feel when they discover their children have been doing something dangerous. But instead, her eyes were wet and strangely proud. "You got that from your father," she said quietly. "He was a fixer too, not of computers, of machines. He could look at a broken sewing machine and see exactly what was wrong inside. He said the machine would tell him if he just listened. You listen to your machines the same way." June had never heard his mother talk about his father like that. His father had died when June was 5, a fever that came and went too fast, leaving behind only memories that faded more every year. June had always assumed his father was just a factory worker, like his mother. But now, hearing her words, he saw a different picture. "What do I do now, Ma?" June asked. His mother was quiet for another long moment. Then she stood up and walked to the small wooden cabinet where she kept important papers: birth certificates, marriage license, the death certificate of June's father. She pulled out a worn envelope and handed it to June. "Inside that envelope is the name of a man your father trusted," she said. "He works for the government, not the kind you see on television, the kind that works in the shadows. Your father helped him once, many years ago, with something I never fully understood. He said if we ever needed help, truly needed it, we should find this man." June opened the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper with a name and a phone number. The name was Attorney Gregorio Mercado. The phone number had a Manila area code. "What does he do?" June asked. "He investigates people who abuse their power," his mother said. "And from what you just told me, someone with power just tried to steal an election. That sounds like something Attorney Mercado should know about." June looked at the paper in his hands. Then he looked at his phone, still on the bed, still holding the evidence of everything that had happened. The deleted voter records, the attacker's internal chat messages, the IP address that led to the government building in Pasay City. He had proof. Real, digital proof that someone had tried to destroy democracy in the Philippines. But proof was only useful if someone believed it. That afternoon, June went to a public phone booth on the corner of Rodriguez Street. He did not want to use his own phone. He did not know who might be watching. The phone booth was old and smelled of urine, but the line worked. He dialed the number from the envelope. The phone rang 3 times. Then a deep voice answered. "Mercado." June's throat went dry. He had practiced what he wanted to say, but now the words felt small and foolish. He was just a kid from Tondo. Why would a government investigator listen to him? "Sir," June said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My name is June. My father was Ernesto. He worked at the sewing machine factory in Paco. He told my mother that if we ever needed help, we should call you." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. June thought the man had hung up, but then the voice came back, softer now. "Ernesto's son? How is your mother?" "She's okay, sir. But, sir, I need to tell you something. Something about the election database. Someone tried to destroy voter records last night. I saw it happen. I have proof." Another long silence. Then, "Where are you right now?" "Phone booth on Rodriguez Street in Tondo." "Stay there. Do not move. Do not talk to anyone. I will be there in 40 minutes. The line went dead. June stepped out of the phone booth and leaned against the wall, his heart pounding. He had just told a stranger about the most dangerous secret of his life. He had no way of knowing if Attorney Mercado was who his mother believed him to be. He had no way of knowing if this was a trap. 40 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up to the corner. The windows were tinted so dark that June could not see inside. The passenger door opened, and a man stepped out. He was in his 50s, tall and thin, with gray hair combed neatly to one side. He wore a simple white barong and dark trousers. His face was kind but serious, the face of a man who had seen too much and forgotten too little. "June," the man said. June nodded. "I'm Gregorio Mercado. Get in the car." June hesitated. His mother had told him never to get into cars with strangers. But this was not a stranger. This was the man his father had trusted. June opened the door and climbed into the back seat. The inside of the SUV was cool and smelled of old leather. In the front passenger seat sat a woman with short black hair and a small earphone in one ear. She did not turn around. "Drive," Mercado said to the driver. The SUV pulled away from the curb. June watched his neighborhood disappear through the tinted window, the familiar streets of Tondo shrinking behind him. For the next hour, Attorney Mercado asked June questions. He asked about the attack on the voter database. He asked about GH0ST_dog_99. He asked about the 17 vulnerabilities in the power grid. He asked about the school grading system and the fake server and the mirror defense. June answered every question honestly, showing Mercado the messages on his phone, the logs on his computer, the evidence stored in his accounts. Mercado listened without interrupting. When June finished, Mercado leaned back in his seat and rubbed his temples. "You're 13 years old," Mercado said finally. "Do you understand how extraordinary this is?" "I'm not extraordinary, sir," June said. "I just learned to listen to the machines, like my father did." Mercado smiled for the first time. It was a sad smile full of memories. "Your father saved my life once," Mercado said quietly. 15 years ago, there was a man who wanted me dead. He sent men to my house. Your father was working on a sewing machine in the neighborhood. He saw them coming and warned me. I escaped with 5 minutes to spare. I never forgot what he did, and I never forgot that I owed him a debt." Mercado turned his seat to face June directly. "The person who paid the attacker to destroy those voter records is very powerful," Mercado said. "Powerful enough that I cannot investigate them openly. Not yet. I need more evidence. I need to know who they are, what they want, and how far they're willing to go. Can you help me find that evidence?" June felt the weight of the question pressing down on him. He was not a spy. He was not a soldier. He was a boy who liked computers and hated bullies. But the attacker had tried to hurt his country, and someone had paid them to do it. That someone was the biggest bully of all. "Yes, sir," June said. "I can help you." For the next 2 weeks, June became a ghost. He did not go to school. He told his mother he was working with Mercado, and she accepted this with quiet nod, understanding that her son had crossed into a world she could not follow. He slept during the day and worked at night, sitting in a secure room in Mercado's office, a room with no windows and 3 computers that were not connected to the internet, except through layers of encryption that would take a normal hacker days to penetrate. Mercado's team gave June access to everything: financial records, communication logs, travel histories, political donation databases. It was more information than June had ever seen, an ocean of data stretching in every direction. And somewhere in that ocean was a fish. A single person who had paid to destroy democracy. June started with the money. The attacker had not worked for free. Someone had paid them, probably through a series of shell companies and anonymous accounts to hide the trail. June followed the money like a detective following footprints in wet cement. He traced payments from one account to another, from the Philippines to Hong Kong to the Cayman Islands and back again. Each step was designed to confuse, to misdirect, to make the trail go cold. But June had learned from GH0ST_dog_99. He knew how to look for mistakes. And on the 8th night, he found one. A shell company in Hong Kong had made a mistake. Instead of using a generic email address for their registration, they had used a personal email address. June traced that email address to a social media account. The social media account belonged to a woman named Teresa, and Teresa's Facebook profile listed her employer, a political consulting firm based in Makati City, the financial capital of the Philippines. The consulting firm was owned by a man named Congressman Eduardo Villanueva. He was a powerful politician from a wealthy family. known for his charming smile and his expensive suits. He was also rumored to have connections to things much darker than politics. Mercado had suspected Villanueva for years, but had never been able to prove anything. Now, June had a thread to pull. He pulled it carefully, gently, like a fisherman feeling a bite on the line. He traced the shell company's payments to a second company, then to a third, then to a personal bank account in the name of a man named Rico. Rico was the attacker. June was sure of it. The same IP address from the government building in Pasay City appeared in Rico's browsing history. The same login times matched the moments when voter records were being deleted. June had him. He called Mercado at 3 a.m. The attorney arrived within 20 minutes, still in his pajamas, his gray hair disheveled. June showed him everything. The connections, the evidence, the proof. Mercado stared at the screens for a long time. Then he sat down heavily in a chair and put his face in his hands. "You've done it," Mercado whispered. "You've actually done it. We can arrest him now. We can arrest all of them." "When?" June asked. "Tomorrow," Mercado said. "At dawn. We'll move before he knows what's happening." "But June, you need to understand something. If we do this, your name will come out. People will know it was you who found the evidence. Villanueva has friends, powerful friends. They will try to hurt you. They will try to hurt your mother." June had thought about this. He had lain awake at night, staring at the ceiling of his apartment, listening to the plastic basin drip, and he had imagined every possible outcome. Some were good, most were bad, but in every version of the future, there was one thing he could not escape. The truth was the truth, and the truth needed to be told. "Do it anyway," June said. The next morning, at exactly 5:30 a.m., the police raided Congressman Villanueva's mansion in Forbes Park, one of the richest neighborhoods in Manila. They found evidence on his personal computer, evidence of payments to Rico, evidence of plans to disrupt the election, evidence of crimes that would send him to prison for the rest of his life. Villanueva was arrested in his bedroom, still wearing his silk pajamas. News cameras captured the moment he was let out of his mansion in handcuffs, his charming smile replaced by a mask of cold fury. He did not speak to reporters. He did not answer questions. But as he was pushed into the back of a police van, he looked directly at one of the cameras, and his eyes said everything. This is not over. June watched the arrest on television from the internet cafe. Kuya Ben stood beside him, his arms crossed. June's mother sat in a chair behind them, her hands wrapped around a cup of hot coffee, her face unreadable. "He's looking at the camera," Kuya Ben said quietly. "He's looking at you." "I know," June said. That afternoon, June's phone rang. The number was blocked. He almost did not answer, but something told him he should. "Hello?" A voice spoke. It was electronic, distorted, clearly scrambled by a voice changer. But the words were clear. "You think you've won, little boy, but you've only made things worse. Villanueva was a pawn. There are others you cannot touch, others who will make sure you regret what you did." The line went dead. June stared at his phone. His hands were shaking. He had expected something like this. He had prepared for it. But preparation was different from reality. The reality was that someone out there, someone powerful and connected, had just promised to make his life hell. His mother came up behind him and put her arms around his shoulders. "What did they say?" she asked. "They said I made things worse," June whispered. His mother held him tighter. "You didn't make things worse. You made things right. There's a difference. And whatever comes next, we face it together." June pulled away from his mother and looked at his phone again. The threatening call was still there in his recent calls list, a ghost in the machine. He thought about deleting it. He thought about pretending it never happened. But he had learned something important in the past few months. He had learned that pretending never helped anyone. He opened a new file on his phone and began to document everything. The time of the call, the distorted voice, the words that were spoken. He would keep this file safe. He would keep it as evidence. And if the people behind the voice tried to hurt him or his family, he would be ready, because that was what his father had taught him. Even from beyond the grave, you listen to the machines, you find the truth, and you never, ever stop fighting. June looked out the window of the internet cafe. The sun was setting over Manila, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere out there, in the wealthiest neighborhoods and the poorest slums, the people who had tried to steal an election were regrouping. They were planning. They were waiting. But June was waiting too, and he was not afraid. The first sign that something had gone terribly wrong came 3 days later, in the form of a single photograph. June was walking home from the internet cafe, his school bag slung over one shoulder, his cracked phone in his hand. The rain had finally stopped, and the streets of Tondo were drying under a pale afternoon sun. Children played basketball in a makeshift court made of old plywood and a rusted hoop. A woman sold fish balls from a cart, the smell of sweet sauce drifting through the air. It was a normal day, a safe day. Then his phone buzzed. The message came from an unknown number, but unlike the threat he had received before, this message contained no words, just an image. June opened it, and his feet stopped moving. The photograph showed his mother. She was walking out of the factory where she worked, her hair pulled back, her uniform stained with grease and thread. She was alone. The photograph had been taken from a distance, probably from a car across the street. But the angle was clear and the quality was high. Someone had been watching her. Someone had followed her. June's hands trembled. He looked around wildly, searching the faces of the people passing by. A vendor selling bananas. An old man walking a bicycle. 2 teenage girls laughing at something on their own phones. Any one of them could be the person who had taken the photograph. Any one of them could be watching him right now. He ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life, his flip-flops slapping against the wet pavement, his bag bouncing against his back. He ran past the fishball cart, past the basketball court, past the church with its bell tower. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs ached. He ran all the way to the factory where his mother worked. She was not there. The security guard at the gate told him she had left 30 minutes ago, her usual time. June called her phone. No answer. He called again. No answer. He called a third time, and this time someone picked up, but it was not his mother. "Hello, June." The voice was electronic, distorted, the same voice changer from the threatening call. But now it was calmer, more confident, the voice of someone who knew they had won. "Where's my mother?" June demanded. His voice cracked. He did not care. "Your mother is safe," the voice said. "For now. She's sitting in a nice air-conditioned room. She has a bottle of water. She has a chair. She is not being hurt. But that can change very quickly, June, very quickly. Let me talk to her." A pause, then a rustling sound, then his mother's voice, shaky but alive. "June? Anik, Huwag Kang Magalala. I'm okay. The line went silent. Then the distorted voice returned. "You heard her. She's fine. But she won't be fine if you don't do exactly what I say." June's mind raced. He had faced hackers before. He had faced powerful politicians before. But this was different. This was his mother, the woman who had raised him alone, who had worked 12-hour days in a hot factory so he could have a future, the woman who had held him when he cried and kissed his forehead when he slept. She was in the hands of monsters, and it was his fault, all his fault. "What do you want?" June whispered. "Simple," the voice said. "You have evidence, documents, files, everything you gave to Attorney Mercado. I want you to delete it all, every last byte, and I want you to send Mercado a message telling him you lied, that you made everything up, that Villanueva is innocent. If I do that, he goes free." "Yes," the voice said. "He goes free, and your mother goes free too. That's the deal, June, the evidence for her life. One or the other. You have 2 hours." The line went dead. June lowered the phone. The world around him seemed to blur, the sound of the city fading into a dull roar. 2 hours. He had 2 hours to decide between justice and his mother, between doing what was right and saving the only family he had left. He thought about calling Attorney Mercado. But what could Mercado do? The police did not even know where to look. The attackers could be anywhere in Metro Manila, a city of 14 million people. Finding one woman in 2 hours was impossible. He thought about calling Kuya Ben. But Kuya Ben was a kind man, a generous man, but he was not a fighter. He could not storm a building and rescue hostages. He could only offer noodles and worried looks. June was alone, truly alone for the first time in his life. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. June sat on the curb, watching the minutes tick by on his phone. He had not moved. He had not called anyone. He had just sat there, his mind spinning in circles, searching for a solution that did not exist. Then, at exactly the 1 hour mark, his phone buzzed again. He expected another threat, another demand. But the message was different. It was from GH0ST_dog_99. I know what's happening. I've been watching. Don't delete the evidence. That's what they want. That's how they win. June typed back with shaking fingers. If I don't delete it, they'll kill my mother. No, they won't, because I found where she is. June's heart stopped. He stared at the message, reading it again and again. I found where she is. How? How could an American hacker, thousands of miles away, find his mother in the chaos of Manila? The next message contained an address. A building in Santa Mesa, a district east of Manila, an old warehouse near the river. And beneath the address, 3 more words. Go now. Hurry. June did not hesitate. He ran to the main road and waved frantically at a passing tricycle. The driver, a thin man with a faded baseball cap, stopped and looked at June with curious eyes. Santa Mesa, June gasped. The old warehouses near the river. Fast as you can. The driver nodded. 50 pesos. June threw a crumpled bill at him and climbed into the sidecar. The tricycle roared to life and swerved into traffic, weaving between jeepneys and cars and bicycles. The wind whipped through June's hair as they raced across the city, crossing bridges and dodging potholes, the buildings of Manila blurring past. June looked at his phone. GH0ST_dog_99 had sent another message. There are 3 men inside, one at the front door, one at the back, one with your mother. They are not police. They are not soldiers. They are thugs. They will be armed. You cannot fight them alone. June knew that. He was 13 years old, skinny, untrained in any kind of combat. But he also knew something that GH0ST_dog_99 did not. He knew the warehouse. He had passed it many times on the way to his grandmother's house. The building was old, abandoned for years, with a crumbling back wall that children used to sneak inside to play. June had been one of those children. He knew a way and that the thugs probably did not. The tricycle stopped at the edge of Santa Mesa, near the river. June jumped out and ran toward the warehouses, a row of old concrete buildings with rusted roofs and broken windows. The smell of the river, a mix of rotting vegetation and garbage, filled his nose. He crouched behind a pile of abandoned tires and studied the warehouse. GH0ST_dog_99 had been right. A man stood near the front door, smoking a cigarette, his eyes scanning the street. He wore a black jacket despite the heat, probably hiding something underneath. A gun. June was sure of it. Another man stood near the back, leaning against the wall, looking bored. The third man was inside with June's mother. June crawled along the side of the warehouse, staying low, using piles of trash and old machinery for cover. He found a crumbling back wall, the same spot he had used as a child. The hole was smaller now, partly blocked by fallen bricks, but still big enough for a skinny 13-year-old to squeeze through. He took a deep breath. Then he pushed himself through the gap, scraping his arms and shoulders on the rough concrete. He landed on the other side in a pile of dust and broken glass. He was inside the warehouse. The warehouse was vast and dark, filled with old shipping containers and rusted machinery. The air was thick with dust and the smell of mold. June could hear voices from the front of the building, the thugs talking and laughing. He could hear a woman's voice, too, soft and steady. His mother. She was praying. June moved silently between containers, using them for cover. He had no weapon. He had no plan. He only had the element of surprise and the desperate love of a son for his mother. He reached the edge of the last container and peered around the corner. He could see them now. The third thug, a large man with a shaved head and a tattoo on his neck, sat on a wooden chair near the center of the warehouse. Beside him, tied to another chair, was June's mother. Her hands were bound behind her back. A strip of cloth covered her mouth, but her eyes were open, and when she saw June, they went wide with shock and fear. She shook her head violently. "Go away. Run. Save yourself." June could not run. He would never run. The thug with the shaved head had a gun in a holster on his hip. He was not holding it, which meant he was not expecting trouble. He was relaxed, confident, sure that a 13-year-old boy would never dare to come here alone. He was wrong. June looked around for something, anything, that could be used as a weapon. His eyes landed on a heavy metal pipe, lying near his feet, left over from some long-forgotten construction project. He picked it up. It was heavier than he expected, but he could lift it. He could swing it. He waited. The thug stretched his arms above his head and yawned. He turned slightly in his chair, facing away from June. It was now or never. June stepped out from behind the container. He raised the pipe above his head. He took 3 quick, silent steps, and he brought the pipe down on the back of the thug's skull with every ounce of strength he had. The sound was sickening, a crack that echoed through the warehouse like thunder. The thug's eyes rolled back, and he slumped forward, unconscious before he hit the floor. The gun fell from his holster and skittered across the concrete. June dropped the pipe. His hands were shaking. He had never hurt anyone before, but there was no time to think about that now. He ran to his mother and pulled the cloth from her mouth. "Ma, I'm here. I'm here." But there was no time to celebrate. The thugs at the front and back doors had heard the noise. Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Shouting. The sound of guns being drawn. June grabbed his mother's hand. "We have to go. Now. The back wall. The hole." They ran. June pulled his mother through the maze of containers and machinery, back toward the crumbling wall. Behind them, the thugs were getting closer, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They reached the hole. June pushed his mother through first, scraping her shoulders, ignoring her cries of pain. Then he squeezed through after her, the rough concrete tearing at his shirt and skin. They tumbled out into the open air, into the gray afternoon light. The thugs were still inside, but they would find the hole soon. They would come out shooting. June pulled his mother to her feet, and they ran. They ran through the streets of Santa Mesa, past startled vendors and barking dogs, past children playing and old men sleeping. They ran until they could not run anymore, and then they kept running. Behind them, sirens wailed. Attorney Mercado had sent the police. The thugs would be caught. The evidence would be safe. Villanueva would stay in prison. But June did not know any of that yet. All he knew was his mother's hand in his, her breath ragged beside him, both of them alive, both of them free. They stopped in front of a small church, its doors open, the sound of singing drifting out. June's mother pulled him inside, and they sat in the last pew, breathing hard, holding each other. The singing continued, voices raised in praise, unaware of the 2 wet, dirty, trembling people who had just joined them. June's phone buzzed one last time. He looked at the screen. GH0SD_dog_99. "You did it, kid. You really did it. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry. I started this. I challenged you. I didn't know it would lead to this. But you turned the game into something real. Something important. Never stop being who you are." June typed back, "Thank you for finding my mother, for not giving up on me." "The quiet river cuts the deepest canyon," the American replied. "Remember that. Always." Then the messages stopped. June put the phone in his pocket. He leaned his head against his mother's shoulder, and he listened to the singing. Outside, the rain began to fall harder, washing away the dust and the blood and the evidence of the day's violence. The thugs were in police custody. The warehouse was being searched. Villanueva's remaining allies were scrambling to cover their tracks. But inside the church, a mother and son sat in silence, grateful to be alive, grateful to have each other. They did not know what the future held. They did not know if more threats were coming. They only knew that they had faced the darkness together, and they had survived. And for now, that was enough.